All right, so let's get started. So this first slide, we're just going to talk about. David and I are just going to kind of tag team this. This is a very informal presentation. So if you guys have questions at any time, please feel free to jump in. You don't have to wait until the end. And Susan, of course, you've got tons of experience. So if there's something that you think about that we haven't, please jump in. So the first question really is, who do I contact if I have questions? And um, it really does depend on the question. You have a whole you guys have so many people that you can reach out to if you have questions. You know, whoever the AG that came before you, you have really experienced AGs like Susan and David. So if you have questions about anything, do not hesitate to reach out to them. And honestly, I don't know what David or Susan would say, but I would say if you have questions, start with the experienced AGs, because chances are that they have had that question themselves and they already know the answer to it. Also look on DACDB. If you haven't been to DACDB, make sure you go there and become familiar with it. But, you know, everybody's there. All the chairs for all the district committees are there, along with their contact information. All of the AGs for the different areas are there. Everyone in the DG line is listed, secretary treasurer for the district. So anybody that you could need to contact really are there, but I would really use your fellow AGs, because I think especially these experienced AGs, they're going to have that information to share with you. David, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think the best advice I can give you is don't hesitate to reach out to anybody else, including myself. If you should have phone numbers or at least cell phones and emails, because oftentimes you'll find yourself spinning your wheels trying to figure something out. The other thing if you ask somebody early on, if I can't answer right away, I'm going to shoot you an email back as soon as I can. And so that might save you some time. Another thing I think is early on, and we'll get into this when we talk about your access to My Rotary and Club Central, getting familiar with that yourself before your presidents start asking you a lot of questions will return a lot of dividends. And, you know, if you can take an hour or two on a weekend and go in there and look at what your club has done last year once you have access to it, and look at how the goals are being posted, because those are the first questions you're going to start getting asked right away, is how do I get my goals for my club entered in Club Central or something like that. So you have to be on top of it before they start asking you questions. On the other hand, I get asked questions a lot of times I don't have any clue. And a lot of times I'll just Google My Rotary and get some information I can download and provide to them. You just need to have your club presidents, in my opinion, trusting you that you're not going to blow them off or ignore them, that you're going to try and get an answer for them and facilitate their success, rather than just being somebody who criticizes them for not doing something. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's it. That's really an important point to remember, because, you know, some of these presidents, they're going to come to you with questions sometimes that, you know, they could look for the answer themselves, but they're overwhelmed. They're getting it all figured out. And by you helping them with that, that really helps to build that trust. And, you know, a lot of times, some of them are, you know, haven't been in Rotary for very long. Others have been in for 15 or 20 years. So, that relationship that presidents have with their AG is really important, because they're going to look to you for a lot of things, and if you can build that trust with them from the beginning, that's going to be it's going to be really important for you moving forward. How often do you really need to visit the clubs? You know, that really depends on the club, because if you have a really strong club, they're doing well, you may only need to visit them, you know, four or five times a year. I generally say you want to visit at least quarterly. So you want to be present. You want them to know who you are and that you're there to help them. If you want to visit more, If you want to visit monthly, that's certainly fine, but I say quarterly at minimum. If you have a club that's struggling, then I would really try to be present in that club more often so that you can be there to answer questions, but also so you can be there just to see how the club is functioning. Are they having regular meetings? Are they, are the meetings, do they have good programs? Are they struggling? What's going on in those clubs? And it's a lot easier for you to see what's going on in that club if you're actually present. Susan or David, what would you comment on that question?
Susan, go ahead.
I mean, I agree. I don't know. I probably get to my clubs like 3 times a year, um, supplemented by doing the area president meetings. But I definitely think that by being there is when I have been able to offer the most feedback. So if you're not there and you're just getting feedback from the president, I think that's fine. But I think you can really provide them some guidance if you're seeing it firsthand.
The one thing I would add is make sure you know when the district governor is visiting each of your clubs, and you want to make sure you're there for that meeting. And what I would recommend is that you visit that club if you've not visited them before the president comes to visit, so that then you'll have already made contacts with people. They'll know you're the assistant district governor. And so when you come in with the president, when they're making their visit, you're not a stranger to that club. And that might sound awkward, but I seriously think that helped me. I mean, I have 7 clubs I have to visit, and most people I think are about 5 or 6. And having visited the clubs beforehand, first of all, I found out where the meeting place was if I hadn't visited it before. And so that wasn't a surprise. And then I also was able to make sure I could answer any questions from the district governor when they wanted to know where the club was if they had not visited it before and they're coming out to give their speech. It just makes for a smoother visit when the assistant district governor comes out. They say go there quarterly, but quite honestly, this fall is you really want to hit it before the president gets there, before the district governor gets there, when the district governor gets there, and then maybe when you have any events in those clubs that merit some kind of recognition, where if we're giving out any awards from the district that you might be there. But aside from that, if you have no excuse to visit a club right away, I would still try and stay at least on a quarterly.
And can I add anything to that before you move on? And I kind of assume that everybody else does this, but I do all the officer inductions for my clubs. So like I've got one Thursday night, so kind of getting in there early. And you can go, if you're, y'all aren't the current AGs right now, but go with the AGs if you can to that officer induction, because those are your presidents for this coming up year too.
So, as David mentioned, you really need to be present for all of the district governor visits. Now, if something happens and your, wife is having a baby, or your, I don't know, something is happening. If you cannot be there, just try to make accommodations for maybe the previous AG to be there or something. Somebody to fill in your place. That is very unusual, but it actually happened to me one time. So just try to make other plans for that. But generally, you need to try to clear your calendar and be there, because that's an important time. And depending on your club, usually in my clubs, I do the intro for the district governor when they visit. So you may be expected to do the same thing. So
yeah, I let the presidents introduce them when I did. And, everybody does it differently, but I agree with you. Try to be there if at all possible, or if you can't be there, not only let the president know so they can coordinate meeting of the district governor, but let the district governor know.
absolutely,
because they'll be looking for you otherwise.
Yeah. So something that I think most of the areas started doing in the last couple of years is presidents' meetings, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just how important is it for you to meet with your presidents? And I would say on a regular basis, that is very important. In the Durham clubs, we meet monthly. I know that some of the areas meet every other month or quarterly. figure out what works for your presidents, especially if you are in an area that has not been doing it regularly, although I think most are. Figure out what works, figure out what you guys need as an area. I know in our area, in Area 7, it just really fostered a lot of collaboration between our clubs, and it really allowed us to be able to support each other. So if something was coming up, like a fundraiser or an event of some sort, it really got the other clubs on board with supporting them. And we also used it as a way for clubs to see what other clubs are doing, to talk about what challenges they were having, and other clubs could share with them how they may have approached that issue previously. So I would say that meeting with your presidents on a regular basis is really important. I don't, everyone does it differently, but in the Durham clubs, we have a day of every single month that we meet. So it's the third Wednesday at 5:30 every single month. When we start the year, you put that as a recurring event on your calendar so that you know that you plan around that. So the one thing I would say about the meetings is make sure you're consistent with them so that people know where to be and that they have to plan around that. I think David and Susan, you guys both do regular meetings as well. Is that correct?
That's right. I do mine every other month, and I do it the Wednesday after we have district council that Monday, just so I can communicate anything from the district, that they may need to know. But yeah, we meet at Compass Rose Brewery on those Wednesdays at like 5:30.
I did monthly meetings, fourth Monday of the month. And I think it's more important that you do that on a regular basis, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly, but really try and do that uh, uh, strictly in the fall, because that's where you want to get the clubs all moving forward towards completing their presidential citation goals and helping them plan how they're going to accomplish that early on. The meetings towards the end of the term, we, depending on if we had something going on, we might have a meeting, or I almost went monthly for the first 6 months and then every other month for the last 6 months. But I think it's important to have them meet each other. It helps them get together on looking at maybe a district grant or participating with a global grant, either during, for the next year, because they have to plan what they're going to submit for in May. And really getting to know each other fosters that sort of cooperation that I thought has worked well. And I hope we're going to go quicker through some of these slides, and I'll shut up.
Yeah. So this slide just really looks at the keys to an effective president's meeting, and we talked about maintaining a regular schedule. Really figure out what works for your president. So, for my presidents, what works is that we start out going over district stuff, then we talk about what's going on. I give each of them an opportunity to talk about what's going on in their club. So each group gets a few minutes to give an update on what is going on. Hold on just one second. Okay. So, so figure out what's really working for your presidents and tailor it to them. You also want to use this as an opportunity to help clubs play off each other's strengths. So in Durham, the Durham Club has really strong membership, and some of our other clubs, we don't have we're not as successful in recruiting. So that's one area where the Durham clubs may help the other clubs. My club is really strong in service, so how we engage our members in service may help one of the other clubs. So just use it as an opportunity to really serve your clubs. It's not an opportunity just to talk about what's going on in the district. David touched on reminding them of items to plan for, and that really can change depending on what time of year it is. So if you're in the spring, you're talking about, or actually if you're in the fall, you should be talking about succession planning in the fall, because by December they should have their their officers set for the following year. You want to talk about things like budgeting. The budgeting process really should have happened already. So this spring, that's one of the things that we talked about this spring is having the current presidents helping their president-elects to do their budget for the following year. And you have to remind them of things like RLI. So, we're really encouraging clubs to budget for RLI and to include a certain amount of money. Things like pets, things like RILA, take a kid to the ball game. Take a kid to the ball game is one that we always forget because it happens in August. So it happens really quickly after the year starts. Looking at the strategic plan, paying their semi-annual dues on time. That's really important in terms of getting the presidential citation. So there's a lot of, as an AG, honestly, you just do a lot of reminding. You do a lot of encouraging and you do a lot of reminding. A great point that David made was using calendar reminders. So for your district governor meetings, make sure you have those on your calendar and you're using reminders. Ask your presidents to do the same thing. When a president's report is coming due, then have them put that on their reminder. And then also deadlines for applying for grants. So David, I'm going to let you take over here for just a moment.
Okay. We're going to, the grants training module, if you haven't been through the grants training, and I think everybody probably has or is familiar enough with it, but you can always go to the module there and get a refresher course so you can answer questions that your clubs may have and also reinforce what you may already know. It seems like sometimes the rules change just a little bit each year, so I would take advantage of doing that. The key thing on grants that people always find out the hard way is that when they start thinking about pursuing either a district grant or a global grant, they wait too long to start doing it or forming their teams. I've had one president this last year, Nathan Thomas, who already had an international project he was working on, and he spent the first part of the year going to every club that he could think of to get them to want to participate in it, so that by the time early spring came around, he had already lined up who was going to provide money, how much money he would have, that he could then work on putting his global grant application together. But just realistically understand, if your clubs are not thinking about at least a district grant or participating in a global grant by January, February, or March, they're almost behind the power curve, and there's no real time to get ready to submit in time for the due dates. And they're going to want it before the 1st of May. It's usually been the 1st of May. And I don't know what it's going to be next spring, but it'll probably be the same date. Those applications, they have a rigid time date, and if you're late, and it won't be considered. District Foundation Chair will be Newman Aguilar. We got his contact information there. The other thing is, Newman is a great resource for anything involving technology with Rotary. And he is also just incredibly generous with his time to answer questions. Mary Cam, District Grants Committee Chair. That's somebody I would reach out to if you had a club that was interested in doing a district grant. A lot of things in Rotary are personal relation driven. And you make contact with people early, let them know what you're doing and that these people are willing to support you. And you'd be surprised how much easier it is to get cooperation or assistance when you've already made contact ahead of time. Anything else anybody wants to add, Susan or Joyce?
So looks good.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I said it looks good to me.
So this is just coming back to the president's meeting, talking about grants. That's another good opportunity, once again, just to encourage that teaming up with other clubs on projects. So if you're having that regular president's meeting, if your club has a grant idea and you want to leverage the funding of multiple clubs, bringing that to that president's meeting really fosters that collaboration. And same thing that goes for global grant projects. One other thing I just want to say on the previous slide, I apologize. My 7-year-old was having a nervous breakdown upstairs and I was getting distracted. But one thing I wanted to say is just when you're when you're doing that president's meeting, you want to regularly review, like David said, where the presidents are in regards to progress on certain goals. So things like the presidential citation, the public image citation, the governor's club award. So you're not necessarily going to talk about every award at every meeting, but you want to start that. Usually, I think most of us are current AGs, starting in late winter, I usually start printing out where they currently stand. Each club stands in regards to their presidential citation, and then we just take a minute to review that at each meeting. So I always know, if there are certain things that I know my club has, but they haven't gone into Rotary Club Central and checked the box, I circle that and say, hey, you need to go in and check this. So it's kind of another one of those things that you don't want to overwhelm them with all these awards at every single meeting, but you want to time it so you are hitting on all of those regularly. So David is going to talk a little bit about Rotary Club Central. So I am going to turn the screen over to him.
Okay, I have the comm. Excellent. You're not getting it back, Joyce. All right, my Rotary. We're going to start there, and I'm going to hit a few things. And if you haven't been to my Rotary very often, you probably want to go in there and get to this page and then check it out. First thing I want to tell you is manage, and how you click on manage, you get this drop down, and then all of a sudden you'll see Rotary Club Central down here to the left. But you also can get reports. You can also look at club administration and making sure that officers that are required to be listed are listed. We're just going to go to Rotary Club Central because this is really how you check to see how your clubs are doing towards their goals for the presidential citation. And you'll notice how slow it is. It's always slow. It drives me crazy. You have to be extremely patient and not start clicking on other things or you're going to lock it up. Now we're down to where, as a assistant district governor for Area 10, I have all my clubs. Well, we have all the clubs here, but I will have information on all my clubs, and I'll have authority to go in there and make changes to things, or at least observe what other clubs have done. I can also go down to the club group view for my club, clubs in Area 10. I'm clicking on it, and again, I apologize for how slow this is, but that's just the nature of the beast. But that also allows you to have a chance and see. You see the top right has Area 10, and that's what I have authority to go look at. You can always, and it gives you a breakdown on all kinds of nice stuff. And then you get down to goals and progress, and you'll have it for the last 2 years and then for the coming year. So for 2016, 2017, our current year that ends the end of June, you'll have some data about all the clubs in Area 10, but you can also get down to your individual clubs. I want to make sure I've got this right. And you click on, for example, club communication. Give you an example. Again, you got to play with this stuff until you figure out, your comfort zone. Open Sesame. There we go. Now for under club communication, you have various goals listed. This is for last year, not for the coming year. And you'll have different goals that you can reach to reach or satisfy the club communication requirement for the presidential citation. And now it gives me all my clubs here, and it doesn't show anything here, and I don't know why, but I can view a particular club's goals. Let's look at Capital City Club. Again, everything takes time to do this. That's why I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through here, but what I wanted to do was to give you an idea how you can go down and look at individual clubs within your area to monitor their goals. And it was really 2 steps from the My Rotary page, click on manage, and click on Club Central, and then you're able to click on the club group view, and it brings up your individual club, tells you what the trends have been, and here we have a 5-year window on that. There's some, and then this is where, for example, in the goals for that individual club, if they needed to set new goals, they would click on edit and go in there and do it. And you can help them if they're unable to do that. And one thing I would suggest to new assistant district governors is take each president and have them carve out a few minutes of time when they are able to get on My Rotary, and then you both get on your laptops or computers or whatever, from either whether you're together or whether you're doing it by phone, and you can talk them through this. Now let's go back up to see what 2017-18 and see if Tim Chalmers, my president for this club for the coming year, has entered his goals on membership. And I didn't check it today. I haven't checked it. So he's got 2016, 2017. Let's see what his goals are. Come on down here. Goals for 2017, 2018. All right. So he has no goal for membership. Okay. Make note to self, David, to talk to Tim and talking to saying his goals. He hasn't got any goals listed here on this one, or on club communication, or on public relations. And all these are relatively easy, and they need to be put into place before the beginning of the Rotary year, which is 1 July. So here I have a president that I have no goals listed on him for 2017-18. And so what I would do after looking at this is I would reach out to him by email and say, look, do you want me to help you talk you through this, or do you think you can do this on your own? I had already sent out an email to all my presidents asking them to enter their goals, but I had said by the end of the month, and I probably should have said by the middle of the month, so I guarantee it got in there. But it's just a little bit of encouragement. Lee Hudson taught me a long time ago, when you're talking to Rotarians, you got to tell them something 7 times before they actually listen. And as frustrating as that might sound, that is, we're all volunteers, and people do what they can when they can, but you have to, have to remind people, and you have to be extremely patient. So that's how you can check an individual club's goals. Now, if you wanted to, if say they couldn't get in, but you knew what their goal was going to be, you have the authority for your individual club to go in there and edit it. Now I've clicked on edit, and now I could go in here and I could type in a goal for him for the coming year, be it 2, 3, or 4, or whatever, and then save it, and then that would be entered in there. I'm not going to do that because I want him to do it, but that's on your club. And you have tabs here for service, because there are goals for service, and then there are goals for foundation giving. We're waiting on the service tab to come up here. All right, and so you have their trends, and we're going to go with the goals in progress. And so here for 2017-18, we don't have any goals listed. Okay, so that doesn't surprise me. Since, Tim is a very hardworking, diligent guy and a business owner. And again, he may not be comfortable doing that. He may not have had authority given to him yet. Sometimes Rotary Central will not give a president the authority they think they have, because they don't read them as being listed as president. Things like that happen. And what you wind up having to do is calling them, and then they usually will be very responsive on the phone, but it's a matter of following through and taking the time to do it, and it's very frustrating. Now, what we have here for 2017 and 18, he doesn't have a goal listed. We have some statistics about highs and lows. Okay, now I'm going to go back out of here, because what I wanted to do was show you how to look at an individual club. I'm going to look at reports in a second. But this will also give you a club group view. I clicked on club group view, and I'm waiting for it to come back. There we go. Then I'm going to show you some reports you can get.
One of the things,
Right.
while we're waiting, just one thing to mention that you guys may or may not know is that for next year, the district foundation chair is going to have what he is calling area foundation chairs. So each area will have a person that is responsible for promoting the foundation in that area. So one thing that he's going to ask you to do, the new AGs, is to delegate your authority on Rotary Club Central to those area chairs. But he will touch base with you about that if he's not already, and let you know. He'll give you directions, step-by-step directions for how to do that. But that's just so that they have your access to be able to look at some of the foundation giving information for the clubs in their area or your area.
And then you have the ability to generate individual reports and club reports and district reports, but you have to look at this and click on it to get a feeling for what's going to be useful to you and what is simply not going to mean anything. But it's helpful, I think, within first couple of months if you want to do a printout, but definitely towards the end of the fall, you want to get a report and give it to each of the club members if they have any questions. And I really think the best advice I can give new presidents is to offer to sit down with them one-on-one regarding their goals or their pursuit of the goals and talk to them about how they plan to reach those goals. It's amazing how 1 hour spent with them early on can alleviate a lot of questions and emails you're going to get over the next following couple of months. Once they get it, they usually go pretty quickly. And oftentimes you'll have somebody who's very energetic and you won't hear anything back from them and they'll start entering everything in there. Make sure that person's identified as your next assistant district governor to backfill you. I'm not going to tag on all these things because it's so slow to get back there because I want to go to the next thing. Unless Susan or Joyce have anything else about Rotary Club Central that they thought would be of use to everybody at this point.
David, can you tell everyone how to access the presidential citation dashboard?
1 second.
Hey, while we are waiting, I have a quick question. This is Srini. Do you know, David, Joyce, like how long does it take to, fill in all this information in terms of like the goal setting for the club? Based on my experience, I don't think it takes a long time, like probably not more than 30 minutes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So it should not be a very lengthy process, right? Sometimes if you see like a lot of tabs and things, people think, oh, it's going to take a long time to fill in the goals.
Well, I think that comes back to also the point that David made that, some people are more comfortable with this kind of thing than others. So, sometimes
Right.
You have presidents that have not as much computer experience and others that can blow all of us out of the water. And so it's just figuring out what you have and helping them where they need help and how they need help.
Okay, now that I've gotten here under awards, I want to take you back to how I got there. When I went to manage, and then I went down to reports, and that brought me to this page, reports. Then you can go down the page, and there's a lot of different kinds of stuff, but view Rotary Club report. There's also another report. Or special view Rotary Act. No, we don't want to do Rotary Act. Rotary Club reports. There's a couple of links for the same thing, and I believe this is the one. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joyce. Okay, so I clicked on that, and you can bring up the presidential citation dashboard. And hopefully I would not try to remember this. I think you need to almost write these steps down or go in there and figure it out. But where I started off with manage to reports, clicked on the link to reports, and now I've gone down the page to get the overall dashboard for the presidential citation. And this one is a pretty large document. It takes a while to load up.
So one thing about the presidential citation, you guys have all been presidents, so you know this, but what you'll hear from a lot of presidents are, well, we don't really care about awards. We don't do it for awards. And it's really reminding presidents that, well, we recognize that, but clubs are doing amazing things and they deserve to be recognized for those things. But the other thing to remember is that the presidential citation really provides a roadmap for a well-balanced club. And so typically, if you're not succeeding in an area of the presidential citation, that's because it's an area of weakness in your club and it's something that you need to focus on. So it really provides a good map for their Rotary year and helping them kind of identify where are areas that they may need to work on. And for a lot of us, that ends up being membership. Typically, membership is always the most challenging part of the presidential citation to get. So it's reminding them that it's not just about getting an award and recognition, which they should be getting because they deserve it, but also being a well-balanced club and kind of seeing where they might be struggling.
So what you see here is the district report for all 47 clubs in District 7710. And the goal is to get green all across. You can see what each one represents. Do they get a presidential citation? Here are the mandatory activities, and everybody should have green there. Membership. If you didn't get the positive numbers in membership, you're not going to be green. Some of these are relatively, really some of these everybody should have because they're very easy to do. I know in the 2017-2018 presidential citation goals are even easier when it comes to membership, because even if you don't get a positive membership, there are ways that you can still be successful under the new presidential citation goals. Let's take, for example, North Raleigh. They've won the presidential citation and they've achieved all their goals. And sometimes the numbers are above what the minimum requirement is. And so that's all reflected here. So this is a one-pager that you can look at and see how your clubs are doing, but also you can see how the district is doing. And we really don't have that many clubs that got presidential citations this year. Now, if you go to the bottom of the screen where it says club reports, this is what's going to generate a very large document, and it'll give you an individual page. I'm trying to make sure I can get there. For each, see down here, it should be more than one. For each of the clubs in the district. Now, this is one of 47. And so if your club, this is Rotary Club of Angier, and it has each of the goals listed, and if it's green, they're good, and if it's red, they're not, or whatever color that is. You know, I'm one of those guys that has like 4 basic colors, and I can't do all the fancy names for the turquoise or the chartreuse or anything else like that. It's either red or green. Green is a go, red is not. And that's how you can look at one individual club. Now let's go to the next one. You click right, and now we're Club of Apex. And they'll have, and this will page through 47 clubs. And I'm going to go, I could probably just write the number in here somewhere, but you get there quicker. But we're going to go all the way.
You can go to the top too and click on the club name or that little thing out to the left, and it'll let you pick the clubs.
Why didn't you tell me this a year ago when I was?
I didn't know you were doing it that way. This is actually this is the document that I print out starting in January for all of the clubs, and so looking at when you put this in front of them, and what I actually do is I go through if something is that pink salmon kind of color, if I know they have completed that, because you guys will remember some of these things automatically update in Rotary Club Central based on the information that Rotary has, but some of them you have to go in and mark achieved. And if I know they've achieved something and they haven't marked it, I will circle that so that they know you need to go in and change this. So that's one of those things that at the president's meetings that we do, and I do that starting in January.
Okay. Yeah, so you can't change anything on the screen. You have to go back to the Club Central where the goals are entered to make changes, to enter goals that have been reached. And certain goals, you can't even enter it manually. For example, how much money is sent to the Rotary Foundation, or how much is submitted to Polio Plus. Those things are based on money actually going into Rotary International, and then they automatically update or give credit to the club when those donations are made. Same thing on membership. while I have this form up, does anybody have a specific question about this form? You can print it individually, and it's, like Joyce said, extremely valuable and as a helpful tool. I printed them out for all my clubs, probably about 4 of the meetings, just to let them have it. But I also offered to meet with them one-on-one to go over these things as well. And that was very useful for one of my large clubs, helping them get to the presidential citation, because even though they may not be able to do 1 or 2 of these things, they only had to do, for example, New Generation, they only had to achieve 3 of 7 goals. And sometimes you're trying hard to do something that you're really not going to be able to succeed there, but there may be other ways you can be successful in that category. And again, the presidential citation goals for next year are, I think, they're easier. They're not easy, but they're easier than they were this year. So hopefully we'll have more clubs be successful. And if you don't have any more questions about this, I want to move on quickly to the presidential reports and the AG reports. Anybody have any questions about this? Apparently
Thank
not.
you.
All right, and then Rotary Act Presidential Citation Dashboard. I don't mess with that because I don't have a Rotary Act club. We have one, but I haven't had to use that. But let's go back to Google Drive. You're going to be, for the district meetings, you'll attend the district committee meetings. You've already attended one, and you remember that Racine posted slides, went through an agenda, and everybody had their opportunity, who was responsible for a section, to talk about it. The presidents will have a report that they're supposed to provide to you. And I don't know if it's going to be changed for this year or not. I can pull up what I had. Give you an example. I don't have the blank one here that I remember, but these presidential reports for Area 10, I have for each of my clubs. Let's go back to in September of last year. You're going to be asked to upload all the presidential reports for your clubs. Now, I only had 6 at this time because my 7th club hadn't started yet, Parkside. It's brand new, so you only see 7, or rather 6 clubs here. And this is Western Raleigh. They will have this club president report, and they need to get it to you in time for you to take the information off of this and put it into the consolidated report, which is your AG reports. And so what I do on the presidential reports is I have a calendar reminder about 2 weeks out. They're supposed to be done by the middle of the month, and you'll see at the top. And it's every other month, not every month, but every other month is when these club president reports are due. And I will probably, like for July 15th, as you know, that's 2 weeks. There's not going to be a whole lot for them to say, but they're going to have a report that's going to need to be to you around July 15th. You're really not going to have the district committee meeting where you're going to have to have submitted your area report for about another 2 weeks, usually towards the end of the month. So you have a little bit of time if your club presidents don't get it to you by July 15th. But I guarantee you, they may all give you something on the 15th of July, but by September or November, you're going to have to remind them 2 and 3 times to get that stuff in. So by having a calendar reminder for myself about a week out, I shoot them an email, and I have a group email that I can shoot out to all my presidents to remind them to submit these things. And then it's just a matter of using whatever leadership skills you think are necessary to get those reports in, because you're going to want to have them uploaded for the district committee meetings that will happen every 2 months. And when you're doing let's go back here. Once you upload it, I'll always keep everything in a monthly section that you see right here. But we're going to go back to the council meetings. You're going to be asked to upload an AG report as well. And You'll see here the agenda for the meeting. This one was back in April of this year. And so she'll post the agenda, and then she'll have all the other attachments, but she'll also have in there your area reports. And so you're going to want to say something about, let's see, for example, who's this? This is area 2. And you'll have a report like this. Susan, I know these are done right. And you'll need to do a little summary for each of your clubs. And really, this is your chance to sound off about what great things your clubs are doing. And you want to make sure you bring that to the attention of the district leadership, because they're doing some great things, and they just need to know that. Moreover, a lot of the things that are listed can go into the newsletter for the district. And we have a great newsletter crew that puts information out. It's just a matter of convincing your clubs to have somebody write up a paragraph or something about some fundraising event and getting that information in a timely manner so it can get out there right away. So anytime you have a club that does any kind of fundraiser or any kind of service project, you know, if people can get a picture or two, that's worth its weight in gold. And that's how you get the word out. And oftentimes that will satisfy some of the presidential citation requirements regarding public relations. Let me see here. Okay, we're going to go back to, and so each month, this is the location under the district on the Google Share Drive where they'll have this information provided. Now, I haven't seen a message from Shafi if he's just going to use the same one, but you should, before the next meeting, have been given a shared drive on the Google Drive with this information. Let's go back here. And again, if you don't have access to it, then that would merit an email to Shafi or to Sharon Lassiter, Executive Secretary, to make sure you have access on the Google Drive to not only get the blank forms for the AG's report, but also to upload this information. And if you're having problems uploading it, I know that Newman and Rusine said, if you can't upload it, just shoot it to them and they'll upload it for you. But you want to do it because it's really easy to upload a file. You just right click and you upload a file, and boom, you can bring it up once you have your documents prepared and are ready to load them up. Any questions on this? And I know that's just a very brief drive-by, but again, it's like the Rotary Club Central and My Rotary. You've got to get in there and do it a few times till you're comfortable and able to answer any questions your presidents have. And am I ready to turn this back over to you?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing since there are no further questions. And I have stopped sharing.
All right, so we are really going to be wrapping it up at this point. I think the big thing I want you guys to remember is that communication is key. Just really making yourself available to your presidents, and they're, especially the first couple of months, they're overwhelmed with all of what they see as being all of the responsibilities. Suddenly they're getting flooded with emails from the district and from RI, and just helping them navigate it is just a tremendous amount of help to them. So just really communicating with them, but also remembering not to over communicate. I really try to kind of limit the number of emails that I send. And, it's a catch-22 because if you make an email too long, that studies say that most people aren't reading past something like the third or fifth line of the email. But if you email them too frequently, they're also not opening them. So kind of figure out what the needs of your presidents are and how best to communicate with them and just be available to them. Susan or David, anything to add on that?
Well, one rule I've always, if you look at something then people will look at it. But if you don't look at something or comment about something, they're going to figure that it's not as important as something else. And I can't agree more strongly with Joyce about not, we're part of the team, and we're trying to come up with a way to help them be successful. And we're not, they're not employees that we're telling you need to get these reports done and get them in. Everything has to be in a mindset of, how can I help you on this? I know you're busy. Is there anything I can do? Can you please help me with this? It just seems to, I think, go over a lot better, at least with my presidents. And you may have people that respond differently to different kinds of persuasion, but I just constantly positively reinforce the great things my clubs are doing. And when I visit them, if they give me a chance to just speak briefly, I will always tell them that they need to, think and be very proud about being in Rotary and what you're doing. And it's just an amazing story out there when you go to the district committee meetings and hear what people are doing, or when you visit the clubs and hear what they're doing.
So definitely agree with that. Everything really happens in Rotary at the club level. You're going to be getting everything from the district side saying we want the clubs to do these things, but remember that everything happens at the club level, and you have to figure out how to help integrate some of those district priorities, but in a way that is meaningful to those clubs. So their priorities are not always what our priorities are at the district level. So it's figuring out how to work together, but ultimately remembering that you're there to support the clubs and those presidents. This is just this is the presidential citation for next year. And I have kind of highlighted some of the areas that I like to call them twofers. So you can do one thing, but achieve two things by just doing that one thing. So these are kind of the cheats for the presidential citation. I won't go through them. They'll be part of the link that you can access later when we send out the recording, or the link to the recording. But just be smart about the presidential citation. Like David said, it's actually one of the most achievable ones that we've had in a few years. So every club should be able to get this citation, but they can be smart about it. For instance, if you have a club that they have $100 sustaining member club, well, they automatically get that one where everyone gives $25. So that's a 2-for-1. So just things like that. Just remember there are little tricks to the trade. I think at this point, really, we're ready to wrap it up. So if you guys have any questions about anything, even if we didn't cover it, especially if we didn't cover it in this presentation, please feel free to throw them out there.
I got kicked off. I hope I didn't leave you hanging too long. I'm back.
This is Madonna. And what I'm struggling with mostly is getting the club presidents or president-elects to call me back when I call them. Any help on that?
Text them. I have more luck texting them than I do calling them. Sometimes it's a text that says, call me now.
Or show up at the club. I think showing up at the club is, hopefully they're going to be there. But that might be another good way. That it might be that once you kind of establish that relationship, they may be more willing to respond. But if one method is not working, definitely I think texting is a great option. But I would go to the club if possible.
I kind of hesitated. I hesitated to do that until the beginning of the year, simply because I'm really not anybody to them at this point.
Well,
So,
yeah, but
I,
you are to the president-elect, and talk to Jennifer. Jennifer certainly will not feel like you're stepping on her toes. But and check with her and see how she was, what was most successful for her in communicating with those clubs, because her clubs are now your clubs, and in 2 weeks you're going to be the AG, and if you're trying to get with the president-elect, I mean, you're their assistant governor, so no one's going to mind you getting in there ahead of time. If you're comfortable and you're up to doing it, I wouldn't hesitate.
okay, that's good advice. Thanks.
One thing, Madonna, is if you have an email with everybody's email address on there, that's one way to get word out. And if they're not returning your phone calls, I like Susan's idea of texting them. But I also at some point said, hey, look, I don't mean to harass you on this stuff. And what's the easiest way for me to reach out to you so you get something that you'll check that day or within a couple of days? And the fact that you asked about that might get them to be a little more sensitive to it.
And I think that's a great point too, David, because I have one president this year who I didn't at first understand his work requirements. He's an IT guy. He's on the phone like all the time, and he would never get back in touch with me. And we sat down and talked about it, and it turns out like we just needed to schedule a time and get it on the calendar when he was actually available. So yeah, I think that's a great point on that, David.
Good suggestions. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Nope. Well, just remember, like we said at the beginning, AGs, current AGs, former AGs, it's a great group of people to go to if you have questions. Don't hesitate. They'll always be happy to help out if you need anything at any time. And we're recording this, so we will post it and send it out to all of the AGs.